with Tom Jacobs of he's Evolutionary Astrologer from Tucson, Arizona. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we're actually here in Lonsdale Key at the market. It's a beautiful view. I just want to give them a personal view. Gorgeous Vancouver. This is North Vancouver, where things are happening.
Yeah.
And Tom just finished the expo in Vancouver. So how are you, Tom?
Great. I'm happy to be here. I love Vancouver.
You feel home?
One of my homes, yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It's peaceful over here.
So what do we think? What do you think is a good messages that we can explore today?
So you want me to interview myself?
Yeah, we can start that way.
Well.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you do. You
Yeah.
ask me something.
Well, you've been channeling,
Yeah.
and it's really amazing. How long have you been doing this?
The channeling started gradually.
Uh-huh.
So I guess maybe I started working with Jehudi, the Ascended Master I work with, also known as Thoth, Saint Germain, and Merlin.
Yes.
I started working with him in a tutoring capacity, I want to say 9 years ago, but it could be
Wow,
give
that's
or
a long
take.
time.
Yeah, it's a long time. And so for a few years, he was answering questions I had about soul and astrology.
Uh-huh.
So for a few years, I wasn't really channeling him, I was just learning.
Yes.
And then he started coming through some typing, like he would say, hey, type this for like a client in an email or something.
Uh-huh.
And then it was speaking. Suddenly it was speaking. The first time I was going to record a podcast, and I would do these 15-minute short things, just instructional things.
Uh-huh.
And I knew what he would have said about this topic, but when I opened my mouth, there he was.
Oh, wow.
So I started recording, and it was like very choppy and awkward.
Uh-huh.
But I kept doing it,
Yes.
and it got better and fluid, and then I was typing books. And so now I've
Yes.
published 5 books of his, and I channel him on energy work calls and teaching just channeling calls
Uh-huh.
and channeling events as you experienced Monday and also in October. So now I actually have him in my head all the time.
Yeah?
So I see the
Wow.
world through his eyes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like he's
interesting.
sitting in your existence.
Yeah, it's like my mind is connected to his mind through like a USB cable.
Wow.
So I know what he would say about just about anything.
Yeah.
Some things he kind of hides from me because I might not be ready
Yeah.
or it might not be the right time. But yeah, I'm like Jillian, my girlfriend, will say casually, she'll say, hey, sometime I'm curious, it's what Judy might say about blah blah blah, and I'll say, well,
Uh-huh.
actually this is what he says about it, and then she'll get 5 minutes because I can hear him.
Yes.
Like I'm in his head or he's in my
Yes.
head.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's interesting
Yeah.
because it's awkward because I can't get away with doing stupid things because I know what he thinks. Doesn't mean I
Yeah.
don't do stupid things, but
Very
I can't
conscious.
get away with being ignorant
Yeah.
because he's always showing me what's happening.
So where is his origination? Like original? Did he came from some planet or?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
What he says is, I'm in all cultures. All
Uh-huh.
cultures on Earth have always known me. He's the scribe, messenger,
Okay.
mediator, translator, teacher figure. Kind of like a Hermes figure, the Mercury figure.
Mercury.
In every culture, you
So
can
probably
find.
that's Mercury.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
messenger.
yeah. I mean,
Wow.
what he would say is that he's everywhere all the time, and he didn't start anywhere. He's just like one of these consciousnesses
Wow.
that is part of divine creation.
Like Melchizedek,
Yeah, like another
another
being who's floating around, who's helping us, and they won't tell you where. Well, it all started when I was a tiny tot. Like they don't do that.
Yeah.
They don't be like, actually, I'm from Dallas. No, he doesn't ever do that.
Yeah.
Like, so he doesn't tell us. He doesn't tell me where he's from. Anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go all the way back in your childhood.
Yes, when I was a tiny tot.
Yes. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ohio, in the U.S.
Uh-huh.
In a smallish town in
Yes.
northeast Ohio, a couple hours south of Cleveland. So I was in a town, but the surrounding countryside was a lot of farm country.
Yes.
like surrounding area, including Amish country.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up there, and then and I went to college in Ohio, not far away. Then after that, I moved to Boston for 6 years, and then I lived in LA for 6 years, and now I've been in Tucson almost 6 years.
But with your journey, did you always feel like you're different? Something is different with your personality?
Yeah, I didn't always feel very intuitive, but I did always feel different. And I've always felt like I don't quite fit in, even
Yeah.
when people embrace me. So I have always felt that. And that's just an issue that I deal with in a bunch of lives of needing to individuate. Like, I need to be unique. I need to do my own thing so I can have the freedom to think and do what I need to do. But yeah, I did always feel different. Yeah, but I didn't feel spiritual.
Okay.
Right, and then when I was a teenager, I started to, or I didn't start to pull away. I very quickly pulled away from the religion I was brought up in, because I actually, when I was 16, I read what was in the prayer book,
Uh-huh.
and I said, "That's not what God wants." Like, I knew.
Yeah.
I was like, "Wait a minute, what are you trying to pull over? Trying to pull wool over my eyes?" And so I didn't really believe. I wasn't religious or spiritual before that, but after that, I was nothing, because I was like, wait a minute, that's what religion wants? That can't be right. So, yeah, that was when I was 16. When I was in my 20s, I started to really see the impact, or notice the impact on people of their emotions. So why would somebody do this, or why would so-and-so say this, or like a friend of mine might say, why does my brother always do this? And I could say, well, this is why, and have that psychological perspective that led to a kind of spiritual perspective, because that psychology helped me have compassion.
Yes.
Because the reason somebody is like, up in, actually with my mom and her mom and her own mother and her sister, my mom would say, why are they like this? And I would say, well, this is kind of what they're afraid of, and that would help me have compassion.
Yeah.
So that kind of started to lead toward a little bit of spirituality. But when I was 30, and that started as a teenager and continued in my 20s, but when I turned 30, I had a kind of a wake up, not a beautiful spiritual experience.
Okay.
Not a wonderful heart opening that completed, nothing wonderful and shining. I had a bunch of
Dark? Is it dark?
psychedelic experience.
Yes. Without drugs.
Without drugs.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, this is what people describe
I had those
psychedelics
things.
as. You had those too.
Yeah.
It's a Neptune.
It's a dark
Neptune
times.
thing.
Yeah.
And it was scary, and so I sought help. And a friend of a friend of a friend was teaching a class. I took it. It was a channeling class. Learn to get grounded in your body, talk to spirit guides, learn to meditate, learn to face fear and look at those things, and take responsibility for yourself as a spiritual being. And that's really where it started.
Wow. And you also have a background in philosophy.
I did a bachelor degree in philosophy when I was in college. I wanted to do music performance.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was.
Do you sing?
Trombone. I was a bass trombone player.
Oh, wow.
It's like when you're looking at a picture of an orchestra, and there are like 2 or 3 trombones that are normal size, and then another trombone next to the tuba, and then the trombone's bigger. That was me, bass trombone.
Oh.
And I put a little tuba and a little baritone as well, but I wanted to do music performance, but when I studied music theory, I stopped enjoying music. It was too in the head.
Yeah.
It's necessary to be a good performer, but it didn't work out. So I was taking an intro to philosophy class, and I think there were 6 texts the professor prescribed or assigned, and one of them was a novel.
Oh, wow.
Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. And so I was sitting there, there's Plato, there's Nietzsche, there's somebody else, and then there's Dostoevsky, and I said, oh, now that's interesting. So I kind of got away with going through all those philosophy classes because I wanted to get to literature and art. So I was waiting for 19th and 20th centuries. So I went through all that stuff, but I didn't really pay attention. So I don't really know that much about ancient philosophy And actually, honestly, the book in your bathroom, I've been reading it. I'm like fascinated. I'm like all the great philosophers. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what that guy was saying. That's cool. Because like I missed it.
Yeah.
And
Well, because you were a philosopher in your past life already.
yeah, I know. Well, so I had to get to the existentialist before I
Yeah.
was happy. Because for me, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to argue with anybody
Yeah.
about whether God exists.
Yeah.
Or the nature of soul, or not to be a smart aleck, but like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, does it make a sound? Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But basically, that stuff will come up, and I'd be like, whatever. I'm just thinking about lunch. Like, I didn't care. What I wanted to know was essentially, what are we doing here, and
Yeah,
why
the
should
meaning.
why am I here? What meaning of life? And I honestly just. I knew when I was a teenager, I knew when I was a younger person and a teenager that I could never kill myself, but I had a level of depressiveness that made me want to, but I knew in my heart it was not an option. And I knew that because, well, the reason that I thought I knew is because you just have to come back in another life and deal with having done violence to yourself, which turns out to be, from what I've seen, true. You have to, and I'm dealing with that in this life, other life suicide. I'm dealing with healing that pain of violence and despair and depression. So I knew I couldn't do that, but I didn't know why I should bother wanting to live. So I was looking for the meaning of life.
Yes.
So, but arguing about semantics and arguing about, does God exist and what is, I was like, that's not answer. So I get to literature. And some of these people are exploring this.
Yeah.
And the main thing for me was I found the work of Albert Camus, the French-Algerian guy. And he said, like, all the other existentialists paint a picture of that leads to despair. Which is what most people know about existentialism. And so he actually had a huge break with Jean-Paul Sartre about politics. But they also had a huge break. They also had a huge difference regarding where they ended up after thinking about life and the meaning of life.
Okay.
Sartre says, all the existentialists say, the human cannot help but crave meaning.
Yes.
But the universe will never give it. So human can't stop looking for meaning in the outside world, and the outside world will never give it. So there's this collision that is the absurd. That feeling of this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I can't stop needing it, and it won't stop not giving it to you.
Yeah, they won't give it to you.
It won't give it to you. So all the other existentialists, even starting with Kierkegaard in, I want to say, the early 19th century, early to mid-19th century, it's very depressing.
Yeah.
Camus says, okay, that's not the end of the story. So life is meaningless? Okay, great. You actually, every individual has the option to create a sense of meaningfulness through making choices and expressing creativity and doing something.
Yeah.
So, when I learned this, I'd say that was in college. I was doing a thesis on this guy. I was doing a thesis on The Stranger and The Myth of Sisyphus, which are his two most well-known works. Stranger is a novel, and The Myth of Sisyphus is an essay, but they go together, which a lot of people don't get. So people who have studied literature see the novel in a certain way. People who have studied philosophy see the essay in a certain way. They don't realize he wrote them to go together to illustrate. One is this explanation, and one is an image, like a creative novel.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute. It's an umbrella with like ears. It's like a cat umbrella.
Let's take a picture of that one. This little girl. From philosophy to this little girl. Is that sweet? Aww. Wow.
Thank you. I was going to ask you to do that, but I didn't want to be weird during an interview. So he did this project because he's basically saying, okay, you're going to find out that life is meaningless, but you can create meaning, and that's the key. So that really allowed me to kind of save my emotional life. Like, I knew I was here and not going to die, not going to kill myself, but I had that depressiveness of why bother until I really understood what he was writing and teaching.
Wow.
So I did my thesis on that, and essentially the creative process of deciding to create meaning every day. like that process.
Yeah.
So that's really been a guiding force for me since I was about 18 or 19 when I started to get that.
And when did astrology, you tap into astrology?
When I was 30.
30.
When I was 30, I was visiting a friend for the third time in Los Angeles. And a friend of hers, I overheard say something about the Saturn return. We're all about that age, which is this maturation
29,
process
30,
around age
yes.
29. And my intuitive ear got piqued, and I was like, what is that? And he said, I don't really know. I just know the phrase. And so I learned everything I could. I dove in. I went back home. I dove in. 3 months later, I moved to LA, and I studied it like it was my job. And
Yeah.
I started seeing clients within a year.
Seriously.
So it just came like that. Like other things I've had to learn, it's taken time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it took me a long time to open the channel, but astrology just was. It made complete sense.
You're born with it. It's an archetype.
Maybe it was waiting for me.
Yeah.
To remember, open up.
To remember all your. It's a part of you.
Yeah, but
Yes.
psychology, spirituality, symbolism,
Yes.
energy, consciousness, it all made sense to me. So, mythology, we were talking about
Mythology.
mythology earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find your works very. It's like demystifying the myth and making them more practical,
Yeah.
so people can understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then people can embody. Like I started reading Lilith, and I feel so in tune with it. Like I would be able to embrace my Lilith.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really healing.
Because one of the things that I'm doing is you take a myth, and
Yes.
a myth is meant to be social instruction.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to tell you how to behave and how not to behave. But that's a story created by culture.
Yeah.
The archetypal thread within us can vary. So with Lilith, the myth says she's a demon, she's a bitch, she's going to eat your babies, she's going to seduce men and make them waste their seed. Like all these terrible things. She's the mother of all demons.
Yeah.
She needs to be punished. But the archetype is, if I'm in my lower chakras, I'm listening to the wisdom of the earth as it speaks through my body.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, because that tells me what I should eat, what I should not eat.
Yes.
That tells me what people I should be around. But I mentioned you earlier, something looks good on paper, but then you're there and you're clear it's wrong for you.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody says, hey, let's go meet my friend Susan. She's wonderful. You meet Susan, you're like, she's not for me. You know that.
Yeah.
You can't deny it. That's Lilith. So that's great, but the myth makes it sound terrible.
Uh-huh.
So I'm teasing apart that. And anyone who's watching this is interested in this perspective.
Yeah.
I go into it in detail in the Lilith book, Lilith in the Wild, as well as Chiron 2012 in the Aquarian Age,
Yeah.
but also a book called Living Myth, Exploring Archetypal Journeys, where there may be, I think, 11 archetypes in 14 chapters. Where
wow.
Yeah, because there's no reason to receive a story about a myth and then not be alive about it.
Yeah,
We're living the mythical story all the time.
It is. We're living all, our mythological goddess, and
Yeah.
being able to understand why you do things the way you do, and you don't want to do it, but you do it anyway.
That's right.
It's
So,
an archetype.
If you look at my birth chart, for example,
Yes.
with the regular planets,
Mm-hmm.
you get a picture, and that picture from an astrologer would help me.
Uh-huh.
But when you add in what are called the four main asteroid goddesses, and they're Ceres, Palestine, Juno, and Vesta,
Yeah.
and they're the first four discovered asteroids. So asteroids numbers 1 through 4. When you add those in, my chart suddenly is radically different.
Uh-huh.
Because I have a very strong Ceres, a strong Pallas, and a strong Vesta, and a strong Juno. All these things are really strong, so it adds to the story. So using, really getting into those it's really important for, understanding more.
Yeah.
And for sometimes people look at the charts I make for them and they say, oh, there's so much in there. Because I added maybe 8 or 10 more bodies that a lot of people don't use. So
It's all encompassing.
Yeah, and it's vocab words to understand ourselves.
It's beautiful what you do.
Thank you.
And so you're going to Portland
Yes.
after Vancouver?
Yes. Tomorrow, going to Portland from April 27th through May 4th. Doing readings, having vacation, and also doing 2 meditation events.
Awesome.
Saturday the 2nd in the afternoon in Portland at Yoga on Yam Hill, and then Sunday the May 3rd at Flow Hot Yoga in Vancouver, Washington. And they're meditation, energy, channeling work events, like
That's
energy work
beautiful.
channeling events. Yeah.
And then you're back to Tucson.
I'm back to Tucson and advancing what I'm doing with the program crystals. I'm going to start making new ones. I'm going to start with
Yes.
pink opal, which is for heart opening.
That's beautiful.
I have like
opal.
20 some pounds of raw pink opal waiting for me to cut and polish, so excited.
Do you do your own cutting and polishing?
Some of the crystals
Yeah.
I have, like the tiger iron and red jasper you have,
Yeah.
those are both cut by me.
Wow.
And then the red jasper was tumbled by me. The
That's
tiger
a lot of
iron-
work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And the tiger iron was done on a polishing wheel, like a
Uh-huh.
cutting wheel. Diamond encrusted wheel to polish it. I did that by
Wow.
hand. Yeah.
You're such an
Yeah.
artist.
I'm trying.
You are. So where can we get hold of you?
So I'm on the web at tdjacobs.com.
TD Jacob.
Yeah, like the darndest, TD
Yeah.
Jacobs. And my email is tom@tdjacobs.com. I'm just going to give you my phone number because we did it the other day, I think.
Yeah.
213-925-6019. And also, you can hear me every week on the Soul's Journey radio show, which is live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific on Contact Talk Radio. And the podcast is in iTunes as well.
Oh, that's so amazing. And we want you to come back again here.
Thank you.
Vancouver.
Thank you
We
so much for
love you
hosting
here.
me
Oh,
and
you're
putting
welcome.
on the channeling event last week. And I was
Yes.
really grateful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.